This is Robert Merdlacci, the MindShare Learning Report, Canada's Learning and Technology e-magazine. And welcome to This Week in Canada EdTech. And I'm honored to have join me for a MindShare Learning Moment, Diane Doersch, who is the chair of the Consortium for School Networking, as we unpack the recent leadership report. Thank you for joining me, Diane.
I'm so happy to be here. Thanks, Robert.
A little bit about Diane's background. She serves as technical director at the Digital Promise and as I mentioned, chair of CoSN. She came from a career in public education, first as an elementary school teacher, middle school computer applications teacher, and finally as a director of technology in Wisconsin school district with approximately some 6,000 students. She serves as chief technology and information officer in one of the 5 largest school districts in the state. And wow, you've accomplished a lot. You've certified in CETO. You serve on a number of boards and is an officer of women in technology in Wisconsin. She's earned her Bachelor of Science degree in elementary education from the University of Wisconsin and Stevens Point, and her master's degree in educational technology at Lesley University. Wow, what a journey you've had. Congratulations.
Yes, I still can do the things I love. I love it. Even from central Wisconsin in the country.
Incredible. And for those who aren't familiar with that location, it's actually northwest of us here in the Toronto area. And we have something in common. We enjoy cold winter ice. You ice fish. You probably
No
ice
ice
skate,
fishing, ice skating, cross-country
skating,
skiing. Mm-hmm.
and I love to play hockey, and I just got off the ice a little while ago. So it speaks to that growth mindset. And here we are unpacking the 10th edition of the CoSN State of EdTech Leadership. What's the inspiration behind this document, Diane?
Well, as you said, this is the 10th anniversary. So this started in 2013 by CoSN. And truthfully, as a former chief technology and information officer, I would bring things to our Board of Education. And they would say to me, well, what are other school districts doing? What does it look like for them? And so having this kind of information about what all EdTech leaders are thinking about and working on, and how long they're going to be working in this profession and where they came from. These are all really important things that just help us understand as CoSN what some learning topics can be, how we can build community and work together on some of these things like AI that we were just talking about initially, all these types of things. And so this has been a very valuable report for the past 10 years. Uh-oh, I can't hear you again. Are you on mute?
Talk to
There
me
you are.
about the target audience that you've focused on for this particular report.
Right. We had over 1,200 responders, and they all come from the EdTech leadership field or the technical fields in school technology. This is really designed for those respondents who took the survey because, as Holly Doe had said, one of our board members in an earlier interview, she said, it helps me understand that I'm not the only one dealing with these problems. Everyone else is dealing with it as well. And so it helps our respondents, our EdTech leaders, helps, I am thinking, the solution providers as well, because they want to know what are we all working on and what kind of tools can be helpful to get our things done. Boards of education, like I said, they want to know, well, is this taking place all over, or is it just us here where the issues are? And so I think there's a wide range of audiences for this.
Fascinating. And your stakeholder group, you had a number of partners contribute to this. Talk to us about that stakeholder group that contributed as well to enable this report, because you mentioned the industry side and the association side of professionals.
Right. Yes, we have the School Superintendent Association who helped sponsor this, as well as K-12 Insight. And, they're great at helping us collect data and things, and then MCH strategic data as well. So again, takes a village to get this information, and clearly it's been around a while and continues to be useful. So that's why we get the sponsorship that we do.
Amazing. Now you talked about on LinkedIn, 73% you highlighted of the audience is interested in learning how to drive sustained innovation. Um, what are some of the challenges and why are we not quite there yet when it comes to, the theme of our EdTech Fall Summit is empowering sustainable and equitable innovative learning environments. We talk a lot about it, but we're still struggling with getting beyond pockets of innovation.
Yeah, you're so true. You're so right. And here's what happened. 2020 happened, right? When the pandemic broke out, I believe it really uncovered a lot of places that had good things going on, as well as a lot of gaps. And as a result of that, remember that we got 3 years worth of funding to help support classroom learning. And so during that time, with those COVID relief funds, our school districts were able to purchase laptops that could go home with students. If kids did not have access, they could, get hotspots. Our LTE community was very helpful in providing, reduced cost or free internet access for our students who are learning at home. And really, everyone got behind this. But we know that the funding now in 2023 is going away. And so we've got more devices in schools. The devices are older. Staff to support the devices may have grown or may not have. And what do we do now? I've heard of some school districts taking those laptops and putting them back into carts. So kids are no longer taking these devices home. Our statistics show that our school districts are not supporting home connectivity as much as they had in the past. It was something like 91%, during the pandemic were supporting broadband connectivity at home, or at least giving hotspots. But now only 74% of our school districts are providing that type of access at home through hotspots. So, the funding is going away, and we're starting to see the pinches happening because of it.
It's interesting. Dr. Steve Jordan's psychologist from the University of Toronto, we spoke with during the pandemic and beyond, talked about the threat of the great snapback with the great leap in innovations that we made. And what you're describing is exactly what unfolded here in Canada in many regions. So I don't know why there was that pent up desire to take the devices away from the kids that were being highly utilized and back into the carts, back into the classrooms. And we were seeing great strides made when it came to equity, digital equity,
Right,
and
right.
and we need to get we need to stay focused on keeping the learning curve steep, the digital learning curve steep, as I like to say. What are some of the, I guess, key elements of a thriving school district when it comes to, I've got the table of contents up here. You highlight professional learning and staffing close to the top. I presume those are two key elements when you look at the DNA of a successful leader.
Correct. Innovation and being able to keep up with the times, I think, is something that a leader needs to be doing at all times, and make sure that their staff is also doing that. We learned through this survey that professional learning we highlight as a priority, but our leaders are saying there's absolutely no time to do that. Because think about when you're getting ready to go back to school, it's the IT team who is doing that work and that, month-long scramble right before school to get everything ready for students and teachers to come back. And so finding the time to do that, to, get to your staff, your IT staff, and make sure they get the learning that they need is really difficult. I, in Green Bay, held our all staff professional learning in the month of July. That way we could get the learning done and out of the way so that by the time August came on, okay, our staff was ready to do nothing but support our teachers and our staff in getting ready for school. And, anytime it seems like you take an IT staff out of your district for training, that's when all those difficulties happen, network issues, phishing attempts, all those types of things. So that's not really a solution to take your staff out of the district. So how can we work consistently to get, good training, good experiences to the people on our IT team? And that is a
Right.
challenge of our EdTech leaders at this point.
Absolutely. And that job embedded learning and the informal
Yes.
learning, and that's where CoSN, your conference, comes into play. And it, as much as it is difficult to find the time, the value that I've experienced in the informal and formal learning, like at a similar conference I was just at with ECNO in Ontario, powerful conversations, whether you're, in the classroom or on the golf course with your foursome, with along with colleagues that you've never met before. We're learning and sharing. There's such a pent up demand. Talk to me about the importance of the growth mindset.
Oh man. Yes. Well, we all need to be open to learning. No one ever knows everything about everything, right? And so, as a leader, something that I did was always talk about lessons learned. It's like, well, here is a lesson learned. And if I were to do it again, this is what I would do to make this process or that meeting or whatever better. And I think that's something that we need to instill in the people in our technology team. Let's help them be good reflectors and look back and say, okay, what went great? And also, how can we go upstream to maybe avoid some of the problems that we encountered? Because no implementation is going to go 100% right, right?
Hmm.
And so it's that adaptability, well, where's that gap? You don't have to spend time blaming it on people or, trying to point fingers or anything. It's just like, where's that gap? And what are we going to do to bridge that gap so we don't have that issue anymore? And so, Robert, that growth mindset is so important. And it takes a level of trust, right? To actually be vulnerable and say, oh, I guess, it could have gone better. And here's what we're going to do next time to make this better. Because I think sometimes we're conditioned to deliver perfection, and that doesn't happen a lot.
Yeah, well said. And innovation happens at the speed of trust. It's been
Yes.
said, Stephen Covey is attributed to that uh, quote that I've heard many times. But then you have other opportunities as well, where I've seen some really creative solutions where a school district is empowering their students that are in high school to be part of the tech solution team and mentoring them to come back and work within the district. I've seen that model. And have you experienced any of that? I no doubt in some districts that have found that success pipeline, labor pipeline loop in sustainability when it comes to uh, leveraging technology in education. It's not an easy thing.
It's not. And you know what? In Green Bay, we always had the motto, let's build our farm team. Let's continue to build our farm
Amazing.
team.
I love that notion.
Yes, and we did have interns who maybe helped the
Yes.
technician out in a building, got employment over the summer with the district and, moved computers around, did all the work that is not so great, right? Cleaning computers, all those types of things. And then they actually got jobs with the school district.
Right.
Um,
Brilliant.
I also want to bring up Verizon Innovative Learning Schools, which is Digital Promise helps to run that program. Start something called the Student Tech Team, and they are actually started in middle school.
Right.
And middle school students learn how to support their teachers and students in the technical aspects of what goes on during the day. And man, that just makes a technician's job so much easier when our students can take care of those level 1 things and know when to escalate to level 2, help. So it does work.
And talk to me about some of the other highlights around, we talked about AI and uh, cybersecurity is very much top of mind amongst the CIOs and education leaders and the industry for that matter at the CoSN conference or ECNO conference I was just at. Where are we at with cybersecurity? Are we getting on top of that? There's opportunities to leverage that from a learning perspective and keeping kids safe as well. There's a Cyber Titans organization that I came across, a startup that won the startup challenge at FETC. That's a Canadian company. So we are really putting the light, shining the light on that to really tackle that challenge.
You're right. Cybersecurity for the past 5 years has been the number one concern of our EdTech leaders who took this survey. Okay, we are making some strides, but the world is figuring out that school districts are great bait, right? Because what can happen is information from students can be stolen, and potentially identities can be, starting up and getting credit lines and making purchases or maybe breaking the law. And our students' families may not notice this until students apply, for their FAFSA or apply for a car loan or something like that and find that they've got horrible credit, right? And so those are things that continually, as educators, are top of mind. And for us EdTech leaders, having that data privacy, security, and information security is so key. We've heard about many school districts falling prey to denial of service attacks or
Mm-hmm.
ransomware. Some have paid ransom, some haven't. And we should never pay ransom, by the way. But what can we do as EdTech leaders to help prevent those things? And unfortunately, within our report, we're finding that not a lot of school districts have full-time information security specialists
Wow.
on staff. And also, the funds for cybersecurity defense are not there. In fact, 12% of districts don't allocate any funds for cybersecurity defense. So we have a policy committee. We work with our policy makers to try to bring forward using E-rate funding for advanced firewalls and things to help better protect our school districts. There is still a great need.
Thank you for that. Talk to me about the importance of maintaining that innovation mindset and in education. What is the why? Simon Sinek is very big on the why.
Right,
What is
right.
what's the why? Because
Well,
people
and
might
again,
back to school, like the teacher unions in Ontario were like back to basics, forget the technology, pressuring teachers not to use technology and innovate. What's the
mhm.
why?
you know, again, the pandemic uncovered so many gaps that we really had to get creative with finding solutions. And our EdTech leaders, maybe in the past, were in school districts leaned on for the boxes and wires. But there's so much more involved in trying to figure out solutions to these bigger things, right? I recall when I was in Green Bay, we would have principals traveling, once or twice a week to the central office building. Some would have to, leave their buildings and be out of their building hours on end, half of it done in
Hmm.
traveling through the city to get to the meeting site. And so, why couldn't we use teleconferencing? And of course, the pandemic pointed that out, and, Google Meet, Zoom, every other teleconferencing software was just going crazy, right? But being able to be aware of what those things are out there, as well as knowing and understanding the problems and the barriers and the roadblocks that our educators have, you need to combine those two. How can we know what the problems are and also know about those solutions? And Robert, when you talk about innovation, like AI or things like that, hey, that is why the EdTech leader really has to work on being intentional and mindful about learning about these new things. Not only the good things and all those things, but what are the dangers? What do we need to look out for? So that we don't, take this railroad track over a cliff somewhere. So it's really important. The why, um,
Hmm.
it's the large scale of this job at this point, knowing what the issues are and then being able to come up with solutions. And because we're in the technology field and that's where the innovation is, being able to marry some of those issues with the solution providers, um, solution I think is key in helping us get over this hump.
Absolutely, and preparing our future leaders to be agile and resilient in a increasingly complex world that
Yes,
that they reside in. So, kudos to you for taking on this challenge as chair of CoSN. I'm so pleased, to see that you are embracing it in a big way. Any final thoughts to share in the highlights of the findings that you might want to draw our attention to? And of course, it's available on the CoSN website at no cost, which is amazing.
yes, I do want to bring up the gender part of things.
Okay.
Females in EdTech leadership actually has gone down from
Mm,
2016. 36% of EdTech leaders were female in 2016, and now only 33% are. We're finding that women get into these EdTech positions probably from education and being on the education side. We have many more women than men getting into the EdTech leadership, seat in that way. Whereas about 42% of our males come in from the technical side and into EdTech leadership. So it's just very interesting as we look at how long now we've got people who are saying, it will be 10 years before they retire. There was this huge retirement bump, and it just
hmm.
happened. I mean, I retired in 2019. Um, and so we've got time. We've got time right now to get people, underrepresented populations of
Right.
people interested in EdTech leadership. And I do believe, talk about sustainability, I do believe that that's going to be the key to what happens 5, 10, 15,
Yeah.
20 years from now. We have to
Well,
start building that farm team right now.
yes. And well said. And, we talk about diversity being and inclusion being our strength here in the Mindshare workspace. And we've got part of our team over here. You could see, give us a wave, guys. And we have
Everyone,
people, we have people from all over the world. That it's one of the most diverse immigration communities in Canada. So we really leverage that, and everyone thrives because of that. And
yes,
so I'm with you on that. It's so important to be mindful as a leader to take that into consideration. And there's so much talent coming into this
there is.
North America, so we need immigration and to mentorship. And
Yes.
talk to me about mentorship and the importance of that. ICTC in Ottawa is promoting women in tech programs that we get funded for partly here in bringing women from university and high school co-op students are coming into the mix. And we have some amazing talent that I could hire right out of high school today, but parents would not be happy about that necessarily.
Yes, CoSN has this wonderful program. It's about 3 years old now, called the Early CTO Academy.
Oh,
And
cool.
this is for people who are working toward leadership in their IT department. It's a year-long course. And, I've had a few people who have said, oh gosh, I interviewed for and got this director of technology job, but I don't know what it really
Now
means
what?
at this
Now
point.
what?
Exactly. And so Donna Williamson, one of my dear friends, is the main instructor of it, and she has laid everything out from knowing and understanding budget, cross-functional teams and why you need to have strategic partnerships, what E-rate's all about, all these things that our ed tech leaders know. And one of the beautiful things about this is that each member gets a mentor to help them. Now, I
Amazing.
have volunteered for this position or for this program for as long as it started, and I would meet once a week or once every 2 weeks with our people. And, it's like, okay, I've got to have this Board of Education report done. Could you take a look at it? What's some advice that you have? Or I've got to move offices. I've got to move everyone's offices. And so how do you handle that with your staff? How do you talk to them about that? Down to, I've got to discipline one of my staff members. What does that look like? And so I think that mentorship is key to the success and survival of our new ed tech leaders. And they've told me that is what has helped them get through. And so, we've got plenty of people on the other end of the career ladder who are slowing down, maybe who have retired, and they have a wealth of knowledge that can certainly help out our next generation of leaders.
With that, so well said, Dan, and so inspirational. I'm so pleased that you've taken on this big role at CoSN. I couldn't think of a better person, and I'm grateful for our time today. And congratulations on the launch of the State of EdTech report, leadership report.
Well, I'm so happy that I could share some tidbits with you. And just like Robert said, everyone look it up, CoSN.org. You'll be able to find it.
That was Diane Doersch, the chair of CoSN, the Consortium for School Networking, on the recent launch of their leadership report. My name is Robert Merdlacci of the Mindshare Learning Report. Be sure to check out www.mindshare learning to get your latest issue. And until next time, stay healthy, stay safe, and keep the learning curve steep.